Welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast. I am Charlie Caleri alongside
Gavin Williams.
And today we're gonna be talking about, not watching because we already watched it. We're gonna be talking about the week 3 games, and what happened in this week. So Gavin, how was your week this week?
It was pretty busy.
Yeah,
Pretty busy week.
yeah, pretty busy week too.
So we're back. Already having a busy week this week. So just got
Yeah,
pushed
we had a
through.
tough bio exam on Monday.
That was tough.
Pushed through that to watch the Bills game.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Test start time was at 7 p.m.
Yeah, test start time is
Yeah.
at 7 p.m., so I missed the first drive of the Bills game. We'll talk about that
Unreal.
later on, obviously.
Unreal.
But, yeah, for now,
Inexcusable.
I mean, let's just get into the start of last week. I mean, if you haven't seen our picks from last week, go to our Instagram.
Yeah, Out of Bounds podcast with a dot between every single word.
Yes, it is, Gavin. If you have been keeping track, last week I went 6-10. Not 4-12 as some people said. Shut up, Maria. But with 6-10, which is still not great. I'm under 500 for the year. I'm 23-25 overall.
Hey, I've been there, kid.
And what are you, Gavin, now?
Yeah, I went to 10-6 on this week, which brings me up to a 28-20.
It's pretty good.
So
yeah,
I
got some ground to make up in week 4 already.
I've started off much better than I did last year. It was horrible.
It was a slow start for Gavin Williams.
It was bad.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, I talked to my GM, talked to the head coach, and, we really got things going. A lot of off-season training.
Right.
So
But let me say this. We got 6 swing games coming up for our picks this week.
yeah, big week
So
right here.
it's going to be a big week for our picks, and I can make up some ground and potentially somehow take the lead if all of them go my way.
Yeah.
So, but with that, let's get into week 3. And let's start with the Thursday night game. Patriots playing at Jet Life.
Yep.
Against the Jets.
Electric there.
And
Electric.
Jets getting the win 24-3 there.
Got 2 words. Aaron Rodgers. He's back. That's all I got to say. That one touchdown throw to Allen Lazard just shows me that he still got it in him. And I love it. He had 27 completions off 35 attempts, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's some A-round numbers right there.
Yeah, and if you're the Jets, you got to take some positives, obviously, away from this game. Not the fact that Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson haven't been starting the season as hot as you would like them to, but the fact that you're 2-1 and those guys haven't been playing as well as they as you anticipated is a pretty good sign for them, especially facing that good Patriots defense.
Yeah.
That we've seen. Patriots, I mean, we expected the Jets to win this game, but we didn't expect Braylon Allen to be their leading rusher, and we definitely
Played
didn't
good, too.
expect Tyler Conklin to be their leading receiver
What
with
a
5
guy.
receptions for 93 yards. What a game from him. But yeah, Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, they just haven't had that chemistry yet. I think they'll get it down soon.
Still get it.
But when they get it down, it's going to be a pretty
scary.
special
It's
combination.
going to be really scary. That's what A-Rod says. He said once 5 and I get going, it's going to be scary. So
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, we got to see Drake May a little bit in this game.
A little bit.
Later in the game, he went 4 for 8, 22 yards. He did take 2 sacks, though. So the guy was getting, he was getting
getting his
hunted out.
wake-up
He was
call
getting
already.
hunted out there. Welcome to the NFL moment for him. And the Patriots, they look to be back down to earth now, back to themselves.
yeah.
It
was cool. The 2 first weeks were cool. Now it's okay, you're still the same old Pats.
Right,
as
reality
last
sets
year.
in a little bit. I do think they're going to have it's going to be a good building year for them. Jerome Mayo looks to be a really good head coach for them.
He really does.
Especially defensively. And if Brissett can keep balling out, maybe they can see some of their younger players like Douglas and Polk maybe shine a little bit more.
Yeah, Polk's a beast. Hopefully he can get the ball more.
Yep. You good with that game, Gav?
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the New York Football Giants playing the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Surprising win right here for the New York Giants. And got 2 words. Malik Neighbors. This kid's absolutely a beast. Just is going to carry this Giants team if they ever get a win. Because that's exactly what he did. 8 receptions, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Easy pickings for the kid. Easy. Had 2 toe taps in this game, 1 head top. Just absolutely balled out. Devin Singletary, shout out to your guy. 16 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown.
FAU legend.
Played pretty good. And then, not the worst game from Daniel Jones. I'm going to put that out there. 24 for 34, 236 yards, and 2 tutties. Both of those to Malik Neighbors. So you already know who his favorite target is. And he's going to need to target him a lot.
Rightfully so. I mean, if your options, no disrespect to this guy because I love him, but if your options are Malik Neighbors or Wan'Dale Robinson, you're probably going with Malik Neighbors. Even though I think Wan'Dale Robinson on a good Giants team is probably their third receiver in the slot, but that's not a good Giants team this year. So,
so it's pretty rough.
They're going to be relying on Malik Neighbors a lot,
and as they should be. Going on to the Browns side of the football, Deshaun Watson, 21 for 37, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ugly game from him. Very ugly game from Deshaun Watson. And it's kind of making it true that the Browns are going to get anywhere if they have Deshaun Watson under center. And it's too bad because I actually kind of like, I know people don't like him. I just want to see him succeed like he did in Houston, but I don't think we're going to get there. Jerome Ford played like garbage, 10 carries, 37 yards. But the man who really picked up the slack that hasn't done anything in the first 2 weeks, Amari Cooper, actually got the ball.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
And I want to ask you a question about this Browns team. Obviously, this defense, they're still a great defense, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let up 2 touchdowns. But on the flip side, you're talking about Watson a little bit here. You're looking at Watson. They gave him a ton of money.
Money.
In you know, in the NFL, you give somebody money, you feel tied to them. I feel like the Browns aren't as tied to Watson as,
I don't think they
as
are
you think
either.
they would. So my question for you is, with everything that's been going on, all the QB trade rumors that have been going on, do you think Bryce Young is a possibility to be traded to the Cleveland Browns with everything that the Panthers have said, all the issues with that Watson's head off the field, all the issues that the Browns have had at QB? Do you think that Bryce Young is a possibility?
I think it's a possibility, but I think it's a little too early to decide that. I think we need at least 3 more weeks until we really start talking about trades, especially at the QB position. It could happen easily. I mean, I don't know why the Browns would do that either, but I don't know why both sides.
I don't know why they wouldn't, the Browns.
I don't think they
I'm not saying you trade Watson for Young straight up. I'm not saying you trade the guys for each other, but I'm saying if you can work a deal where you don't have to give up your future for a guy that was just drafted number 1 2 years ago in a terrible team, terrible organization that didn't really surround him. I feel like you give him a shot with Amari Cooper in Nick Chubb when he comes back, and Jerome Ford and David Njoku, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something to think about and something to monitor over these next few weeks, and this definitely be a conversation we'll have down the line, especially if Deshaun is not playing well. So something to monitor there from Cleveland.
Yeah. We'll keep our head up for that, and we'll keep talking trades as we keep going on, but
yeah. It's kind of around that time. I mean, I know it's early in the year, but I mean, you got to start talking about trades at some point. So, week 4 it gets a little bit real. Moving on to Eagles at Saints now, down in New Orleans. And this game was expected to be more of a high-scoring offensive game. Turned out to be more of a defensive battle.
It actually was kind of fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was a 15-12 win for the Philadelphia Eagles. A great win for them. Good bounce-back win.
Huge win.
They're 2-1 now. Saints fall to 2-1 now. And by the way, in the NFC South, which we will touch on a lot today, and we will talk about a lot because we talked about them last week a lot.
I think that's a OOB Tier 1 division right there.
We have obviously no clue what's going on in that division because last week we all said those 3 teams are winning and the Panthers are going to get crushed, and the opposite happened. So, it's something to monitor for the Saints there. But Eagles looked pretty good, but especially Saquon Barkley. This guy had 17 carries for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ever since he's become a Philadelphia Eagle, he's played not like a New York Giant.
Except for one play.
Except for that one play, which ended up obviously costing them that game. Not solely, but in the end, it ended up costing them. Jalen Hurts actually threw for over 300 yards in this game, 311 yards.
He still played like garbage, in my opinion.
Yeah, and even though he threw for 29 out of 38, he didn't look great.
No, he didn't.
He threw a pick in there. Dallas Goedert was their leading receiver, 10 receptions for 170 yards, 17 average per play. And then on the flip side for New Orleans, they just couldn't really get anything moving on the field. Derek Carr struggled today, or not today, on Sunday. But once again, Blake Grupe, this guy, he keeps hitting field goals for them. He hit 2 field goals for them, and Chris Olave got in the end zone for New Orleans. Those are their scores. Kamara getting the ball a little bit, 87 yards for him. This New Orleans team's got to figure some stuff out. I know this is a tough game against a tough opponent, but you got to win this game, especially when
you're at home too.
Especially when you're at home against a team that especially if you want to be a contender in the NFC, these are the games you got to win, especially at home.
100%.
So, Eagles win this one. Saints drop it.
Yeah, moving on. We have a matchup that I don't think a lot of people were expecting a lot out of one team. So the Houston Texans walked into Minnesota. Everybody kind of had their high hopes for the Texans getting right into the 3-0 column, but absolutely
including
not.
both of us.
Yeah, no, including both
of us.
But that absolutely did not happen. The Minnesota Vikings absolutely curb stomped, and I mean curb stomped, the Texans in this game. Just want to go through the Texans before I go on to the Vikings. So C.J. Stroud, horrible game. Want to point that out right now. He had 2 picks. That's not like him at all. And he played like hot garbage.
This is maybe the first game that you can point to in Stroud's NFL career
Yeah.
and say that this was a
Disaster.
terrible game.
Yeah,
Terrible
absolute disaster. He only had 215 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks.
But that says a lot about him.
It does. I mean, yes, they were missing Joe Mixon. Cam Akers had to slide in, 9 carries, 21 yards. Garbage. But this guy had his nice return to Minneapolis, and Stephon Diggs, 10 receptions, 94 yards. That's cute.
Yeah,
It's cute.
Whatever. Yeah, it's cute.
It's cute.
Yeah.
We'll go on to the Vikings now.
Yeah, they scored 7 points. I mean, who
they
cares?
only scored a touchdown in this game.
Yeah, and what has he done in the games that they won?
Yeah, he scored a touchdown in another one of those games
Whatever.
too.
Whatever.
He just got this hatred for the guy.
Whatever.
But
I still have his jersey.
let's just move on to the team that actually won, who's in the 3-0 column alongside only a couple other teams now. Sam Darnold. I'm not going to give him too much praise in this game. I'm going to give him praise, but not too much praise. Kid had 4 touchdowns. That's always respectable. He only threw for 181 yards, though. All those passes, touchdown passes, they were just like gimmicky red zone throws, which were still amazing, and give the kid his respect. Because Sam Darnold is the best he's looked in his entire career. But, I mean, I got to go on to this guy who absolutely tore up this Texans defense. And his name is Aaron Jones. I mean, hurts to say it, but I love the guy himself. 19 carries, 102 yards. Those are stats. If he put up last year, he'd still be a Packer, but that's not the case. Justin Jefferson, being himself, 6 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Just absolutely monkey stomped him. 34-7 was the final score. The Vikings move up to an impressive 3-0. That's going to really help them in the end. And Texans drop 1. They'll probably get a nice bounce back this week, though, I think.
Yeah, huge win for the Vikings, especially with the huge game coming up, a huge divisional game coming up at Lambeau.
Yeah, huge.
1 o'clock on Sunday.
Still can't believe that's a freaking 1 o'clock game. That should be at 4 o'clock.
It should be a 4 o'clock game. Yeah, I agree.
Horrible.
Moving on down to Florida, Tampa Bay. Wow, the Buccaneers. We have a lot to talk about in this game.
Yeah.
Broncos beat up on the Buccaneers 26-7, and that might be an understatement too. I don't want to say they curb stomped them, but that defense was stifling on Sunday.
Yeah.
They were flying around. They forced, I think, 5 punts from the Buccaneers. That's a lot. And once again, Will Lutz, one of the MVPs for this team, 4 field goals in this game. And the Broncos get the win 26-7. Bo Nix looked pretty good in this game.
He looked pretty decent.
He looked pretty good. He looked like an NFL quarterback. And let me just say this. I'm a huge Bo Nix fan. He's a humble guy.
He's so humble.
He loves his team.
I've always loved him. Ever since his Auburn days, I followed him.
You see his interview after the game?
I sure did.
All he said was, I give credit to my teammates. There's some things we can still work on, but this is us. He said, this is us. This is how we play football. This is Broncos football. I don't know how true that is, but
We'll see how true that
but it's
is.
something. If you're a Broncos fan, you like to hear that.
Yeah.
You love to hear that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he went 25-36, 216 yards. Fun fact in this game, both leading running backs had 9 carries for 70 yards. Kind of a
Interesting.
fun fact there. And Cortland Sutton getting back in their
He
leading
balled out.
receiver. Yeah, 7 receptions for 68 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but good player regardless. Jaleel McLaughlin and Bo Nix getting those 2 rushing touchdowns for the Broncos. On the flip side, Buccaneers, this is not a game you want to lose. Could have went 3-0.
Especially at home.
Yeah, could have went 2-0 at home. Especially with what happened in the division this week, you would have sole possession of first place with the Saints losing.
And the
Falcons losing. But Baker didn't play that great. They just couldn't move the ball.
Only Godwin once.
The only time that they were really moving the ball was on the drive that they had the pick.
Mm-hmm.
And Baker had a pick in this game. He threw for 163 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Godwin obviously had the reception. That touchdown reception. He keeps that hot streak going. He's been my fantasy MVP so far in our school league, at least. And Bucky Irving, running back. I mean, where does this guy come from? Rashad White's just lost his job, basically.
Yeah, he's gone.
Which is crazy to think about because last year he was so good for them and is such a reliable receiving back for them.
It's crazy.
But the Buccaneers, they got to figure some stuff out. And if this might be the real Bucs, who knows? We could have saw a fake Bucs team for the first 2 weeks, but this Bucs team now, we're not trusting them as much.
I'm still gonna put some faith in them. I think they're.
I have a lot of faith in them too. I'm just saying. You gotta if there's as much of a chance as the Broncos are a good team, then the Bucs are a bad team. I guess.
Todd Bowles got to clean some stuff out there.
Yeah. But I think they'll figure it out. Especially because that division, it's a competitive division, but it's a division that they can definitely win. So Bucs losing that game, but hopefully they can bounce back next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Going on to huge game for my team right here, the Green Bay Packers. And let me tell you, Charles, I got one word for you on this one. Defense. That's one word I got for you. 8 sacks.
I thought you were going to say Malik.
8 sacks, 3 turnovers, 2 were picks. One of them was Jair Alexander, touchdown. Fumble, strip sack. The defense was amazing. I said this last week. A Jeff Hafley defense is completely different than a Joe Barry defense, and I'm amazed. Last year, total pick count, 7. After this week, total pick count, 7. That's all I got to say. This team is just flying around. Xavier McKinney was one of the greatest free agent additions, it looks like, for this year, and he has 3 picks through 3 games. Got to put that out there because that's a very impressive stat. And let's get into some of the offensive side of the ball. So Malik Willis, his revenge tour went successful. He played amazing for what he had to do. Threw the ball 19 times, only completed 13 of them. But I do want to mention that at least 3 or 4 of those perfect passes that were drops. Just want to point that out. So he threw for over 202 yards, had a touchdown, and let's go to the leading rusher of the game, Malik Willis. Got it done both throwing and running. And if that's what he's going to have to do, sign me up because I was loving this game. 6 carries, 73 yards, and a touchdown. That was the opening touchdown of the game. Christian Watson found him absolutely deep. 2 receptions, 67 yards. But I just want to mention one more thing about this offense that not a lot of credit's going to is obviously like the front 5 did great. They did great. But the outside guys were where it was getting dirty, and where those wide receivers and tight ends like Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave were getting down and dirty and giving the best blocks, touchdown blocks, not to mention.
I was going to say it allows Malik Willis to be himself and get outside the pocket and escape a little bit.
Yeah, and there was this one play, I think it was like a 3rd and 8, something like that, and Malik was kind of rolling out to his left, and Tucker Kraft, the tight end, kind of saw him that he had a chance to run this ball for a first down. He turned upfield running a fake route. And that's just something that, like, you only know that if you know that. Runs a fake route, Malik first down. That got us to a touchdown that drive. But the defense was absolutely amazing. Will Levis still had 260 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 picks and a fumble. So that was awesome. Tony Pollard, the run defense, was absolutely swarming this guy. He only had 14 yards in this entire game. DeAndre Hopkins, though, I want to give credit where credit's due. He slapped Eric Stokes in the face. I don't know why Eric Stokes was playing on him, but his touchdown just absolutely babied him. Babied. 6 receptions, 73 yards, and a touchdown for the guy. Packers got a much-needed win in Tennessee for this division, especially with the Bears going down and with the Vikings winning and the Lions winning. They need to stay in contention for the North, and if they can do that against a team like the Titans, who, if we had Jordan Love in this game, obviously I'm predicting a win. But even with Malik Willis, I was still predicting a win. Got the win. Huge win. Going on to 2-1. Got a huge game coming up this Sunday, inter-division game against an undefeated team. So
at
really
home.
At home though. Really excited for that game.
Got to pick up that win. A huge game for one of our correspondents, our Colts correspondent, Ian Kennedy. Colts pick up a win. Their first win of the year. They won 21-16 over the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
What?
Saying the in front of Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears.
If you said the Bears, it's one thing. But
I said the Chicago Bears.
That's crazy.
If I said the Bears, that'd be different. Nobody says the Bears.
Everybody says the Bears.
Yeah,
Nobody,
the Bears. Yeah. I
Nobody
know.
says the
Yeah,
Chicago.
but the Chicago Bears is different. It's like the Ohio State.
Yeah, but the Bears aren't like that.
They're like the Buckeyes.
All right.
The Buckeyes. Anyway, Colts get this win, 21-16 in this game. And this game started off really slow. First drive of the game, Bears go down. Cairo Santos misses a field goal. Not what you want to see off the bat. Follow that up with four straight punts.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And then Colts throw a pick, 1 of 2 on the day for Anthony Richardson. And then this is where the Bears really just lost this game more than the Colts won it. Right away, Caleb Williams needs to have more IQ, honestly, in some of these games. Bears get a pick, big momentum boost for them, especially on the road. They go down 4 plays later. Bears throw their own pick. That leads to a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. Not a great start for the Bears there. And then it was 7-0 at halftime. I mean, this game, it really had no scoring in it until the second half. And later in this game, you see Jonathan Taylor getting in the end zone for a second time in that fourth quarter, getting in there. And you also see on the flip side, Caleb Williams getting his first passing touchdown to Romo Dunze. And you see they were fighting over the ball after
It's cute.
after that. Yeah, it was cute.
It's cute.
They can just give out 2 balls. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. They probably used 2 different balls in that drive.
Yeah, right. But Colts win this game, but Anthony Richardson did not have a great game. 10 for 20, 167, and 2 picks.
If you're curious, it's 5 fantasy points because I was pissed.
Yeah, not very great. But this guy made up the slack for it. 23 carries, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor.
He balled out.
What
man.
a day for him. And then Alec Pierce was actually their leading receiver.
Again.
Even though he only had 1 reception, he had that long catch for 44 yards.
He's been doing this, man.
And he's a great player, man. He's becoming low-key a deep threat. He was starting to become one of those slot guys that would run those short routes, and now he's becoming one of those guys that's getting down the field a little bit. This Colts team looks good. Caleb Williams needs to stop with the turnovers. They had 3 in this game. They had the one late in the game that ultimately cost them the game.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
And huge win for this Colts team, moving to 1-2. Now only game behind Houston, especially with Tennessee and Jacksonville both moving to 0-3. They're slotted in at second in that division, and a lot of AFC teams are 1-2, so they're right in the middle of it.
They are.
If they just keep winning games and keep playing competitively, I feel like they could be a team that gets in the playoffs.
I agree.
Later in the season.
AR's just gotta get going. He's gotta
Right.
get Pittman going. When's that connection gonna come back?
Right, but the fact that they won this game, even though AR played not great, I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's a good sign for the Colts and
Their defense is really
if you're a Colts
stepping up
fan.
this year.
Right, especially
Really
Grover
stepping up.
Stewart, who forced that fumble and recovered that fumble in that game. So
EJ Speed's a top 5 tackler right now in the NFL.
I agree, and we were clowning on EJ Speed a little bit last
No,
year.
but he
but
actually is top
he's
5 in
become-
tackles.
I know, but he's
That's
become
crazy.
such a key
He's a
part
key
of that
piece, yeah.
defense. Yeah. So Colts getting that win, 21-16 over the Bears.
Going on to an all AFC matchup, the Los Angeles Chargers walked into formerly known as Heinz Field. I don't really remember what it's called right now, though.
Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah, that sure. Whatever he said, I don't even think I could say it.
I don't even know what it is.
And the Steelers, they beat up on the Chargers a little bit. Justin Herbert got hurt in this game. He was already hurt going into it. He should have just sat out. in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
mean, looking at it now, obviously we think he should have sat out, but I think it was a good move for him to play. I mean, that's a tough defense. That's the game you got to
It
win.
is,
So I
yeah.
mean, I like that Harbaugh and Herbert wanted him to push through that, but ultimately on a grass
Yeah.
field, maybe you got to
I
take a
just hope
step
he's
back.
okay.
And, yeah, right. Especially with an ankle injury,
Yeah.
it's not something you really want to think about on a grass field, especially against a tough defense where he's going to be moving a lot.
Yeah. And we have a undefeated team still in this matchup. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are that team. And this guy didn't even play the greatest, but I'll give him some credit. Justin Fields, 25 for 32. That's pretty good. 245 yards, pretty good. Touchdown, pretty good. And a pick. I'm not going to get into the pick a lot. But it's just showing that, like, Justin Fields should be given the keys to drive right now.
I agree. The ball, I mean, if you watch the ball coming out of his hand, it looks like
It's
the ball
flinging,
that was
man.
coming out of his hand at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And not the ball that was coming out in Chicago.
No.
That's all I'll
completely
say.
opposite, yeah. I just really love I've always loved Justin Fields. Even when he was on the Bears, I always had a soft spot for him just because he was my favorite college quarterback ever. So I love Justin Fields. I'm so glad he's on the Steelers and not the Bears. And, you know, give him the keys. He's got the Porsche, let him ride. We got Najee Harris, 18 carries, 70 yards. Like to see where he's picking up now. And the leading receiver for the Steelers was Calvin Austin III. 4 receptions, 95 yards, and a tutty.
That's another deep threat kind of guy.
It is.
Yeah.
Going on to the Chargers. A little disappointing week from J.K. Dobbins because he's just been so good this year. 15 carries for 44 yards. They just couldn't get anything going on the offensive side of the ball at all. Ladd McConkey was a leading receiver. 3 receptions, 44 yards. But a huge defensive game for the Steelers. I mean, T.J. Watt's just tearing it up, man. He's absolutely one of the best, if not the best defensive player in the NFL. And, you know, I think that this Steelers team, even though they're probably the most fake 3-0 team out there, one of, but I think this might...
I don't know. Their defense is so good.
It's so good where it's like their defense is going to carry the games. But, I mean, I get this feeling that if the Steelers do make the playoffs, which right now it's not even that crazy to even say that. I mean, they could sneak in as like a 7 seed.
I mean, I don't know why. I mean, every year I feel like we go through the same discussion.
Yeah.
It's like, how are the Steelers good? In every year,
Mike
it's the same
Tomlin, man.
answer. It's Mike Tomlin.
And I'm so glad to see that Justin Fields is finally like having fun.
He looks comfortable.
He
Like,
does.
Yeah, it's just like in Chicago, it looked like he had way too much pressure on him. Going to a smaller city in Pittsburgh with not as much spotlight on him, I feel like it's going to help him a lot.
Yeah, no, totally.
Especially just, I don't know. I feel like they got a good team around him too, where I feel like they could all get along and be a successful team. Even though that defense is the key point of that team.
It is.
As long as that offense is getting 20, 21 points a game, I feel like they can stay in games and be a good team.
Yeah, so final score of that was 20-10. Steelers go to 3-0. Chargers go down to 2-1.
Moving on to a weird matchup. Furthest northwest team for the furthest southeast team. I don't know if it's the furthest flight that you have to take in the NFL, but it definitely could be. The Dolphins flew all the way to Seattle to play the Seahawks, and they did not play very well. The game was over basically in the first quarter. Not much really happened in this game. It was 24-3. Seahawks won this game. And after the first quarter, it was 17-3. Jason Myers hit a 56-yard field goal on their first drive. And then Zach Charbonnet. Let's talk about this guy for a second. This guy went to Michigan for a few years, went to UCLA for 1 year, balled at UCLA, gets drafted to the Seahawks as their backup, and now, with 2 touchdowns in this game, and 91 yards rushing, has slowly become a good backup and potentially their starter. I don't want to say Kenneth Walker has lost his job, but there's a real possibility. It's kind of like a Bucky
Might be a
Irvin.
two-way.
Might be a Bucky
Yeah.
Irvin, Rashad White situation. I'm just saying, don't get too comfortable, especially if you're running back.
Definitely.
The Seahawks team looks good. Geno Smith looks good, even though he had 2 picks in this game. I know, but that Dolphins defense is still really good. And Skylar Thompson, man, I know he got hurt in this game, but I'm glad he was in there and taking the hits that he was taking. It's just not a good game overall for the Dolphins. I mean, this is definitely one you just want to forget about. But seeing them at 1-2,
Oh, well, yeah.
seeing them at 1-2 is just great as a Bills fan. And hopefully they can keep the streak going, move it to 3 games. But Seahawks getting this win here, and they are now 3-0. Probably the biggest shock, I guess, probably more than Pittsburgh, I guess, if I had to say. But
because of the schedule.
I can't remember, but did I have Seattle in my playoffs? Or were they just out for me? I can't remember. They were 7 or 8 seed for me.
Yeah, I think they might have been the 8.
But they were a little bit more on my radar. I think Pittsburgh was a little bit more.
You put the Bears at 7.
I did put the Bears in the playoffs. I was very high on the Bears before, but I thought Caleb would actually keep the ball in his hands, not turn it over as much. But anyway, Seahawks get the win here. Now they're 3-0. And that defense is pretty good too. They're swarming around. And they're ball hawking a lot. They're kind of like the Packers defense too. I feel like they get a lot of turnovers as well. But Seahawks moved to 3-0. And yeah.
Yeah, so now we're going to move on to
12th man was rocking.
No, it was. And it's a tough place for a backup quarterback to play in.
Yeah.
So
Tyler Huntley might see some action this week
he might.
against Tennessee.
So now we're going into another game that was shocking. Shocking to say the least. I mean, you had the Raiders coming into this game just a win against the Ravens, and everybody's really high on them.
Baltimore.
In Baltimore, huge win. And they're playing the Panthers, who are 0-2. They're starting Andy Dalton. Well, let me tell you something. Andy Dalton came to play. All right? 26 for 37, 319, and 3 tutties. Above 300 yards and 3 tutties. That's unreal. This team put up 36 points. Chuba Hubbard, 21 carries, 114 yards. Dog. Deontay Johnson. Love to see that he succeeded because when he left Pittsburgh, his career was going to rot, but love to see that he's getting the ball. 8 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown. Balled. 36 points. That's probably going to be the most they get all season, I'm not going to lie. But then we have the Raiders. The guy you've been saying, just wait till next week, Zamir White, 10 carries, 34 yards. What do you guys say about that?
I honestly have nothing to say, and I'm honestly just ashamed of Zamir White at this point. I put so much fantasy stock into this guy this year, and there's a lot of season left. Let me just say that I'm not giving up on him just yet. But that was the game where you start going off Zamir.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna pick any game, pick that one. If they won that game and he didn't play well, I would be a lot more concerned about him, and I would probably be looking to drop him or trade him in fantasy. But I still have faith in him, and I think next week's the week. I think next week is the week.
Trey Tucker was the leading receiver, 7 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Gardner Minshew did not play his best game. He had a pick, a touchdown, 214 yards, and 18 completions. Not the greatest game from the Raiders, but I want to give the Panthers all the credit in the world because they balled out. And their defense played really good up until that fourth quarter, so we got to give that defense some credit too. So Carolina Panthers are not going to be an 0-17 team this year. So they're 1-2. So are the Raiders. They bounced down to 1-2 as well.
Moving on now to out in L.A. The Rams getting a huge win, stealing a game from the 49ers with that late comeback win that they had. And I just want to point something out. The NFC West, the standings right now, 3-0 Seattle. This is in order, too. 1-2 Arizona, 1-2 LA, and 1-2 San Francisco.
Yeah.
So right now, Seattle with a 2-game lead in that division.
That's huge.
A huge win for the Rams here, avoiding going 0-3, and a fairly big loss, honestly, for the Niners.
Yeah.
Now dropping 2 in a row, right?
Yeah, that's 2 in a row.
Yeah, 2 in a row. Now they're 1-2.
It was the Vikings, now it's the Rams.
And let's just start with the Niners here. They're MVP of this game, and I'm sure we'll be talking about him later. Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings,
man. 11 receptions, 175 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Are you kidding me?
I just want to point out, this was my waiver wire pickup of the week. Just want to point that out.
Yeah.
Because I picked him up off the waiver wire.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But Juwan Jennings, I mean, I feel like once every 6 games, this guy just goes nuclear, and that's worth it to have him on your fantasy team alone. But Brock Purdy kind of got helped a lot by Juwan Jennings in this game, and it really showed.
Juwan Jennings only got one ball.
Yeah, without him, I mean, they don't score 24 points. They're not really even in control of this game at some point. Yeah. But moving on now to the Rams, they got stops when they needed to.
Huge.
And late in this game, I mean, they were down by 10 points, I think, with 7 minutes left. Scored a field goal on the one drive to push it to 7. And then my guy, Jake Moody, goes down and missed his first field goal of the season.
Yeah, that one killed.
And that honestly killed him because the 3 plays later, 55 yards later, in 52 seconds later, the Rams go down, score a touchdown. So they tie the game at that point now. But you're thinking now you're like, oh, Niners got the ball. Minute. How much time was it? 15 left on the clock. It wasn't a lot. No, maybe closer to 2 minutes at that point. And then they punt. They end up punting on that drive, and then Rams go down, end up kicking the game-winning field goal.
Matthew Stafford, great ball in that one.
Yeah, I mean that drive was 2 plays, 31 yards. This Niners team, they just find a way to blow games. And this is a tough loss for them. They got to go back to the drawing board.
CMC's got to get healthy. You need Deebo health. You need Kittle health. It's showing how much that team matters when they have all their guys.
Yeah, and Jordan Mason played another decent game. I mean, 19 carries, 77 yards. He's filling in his role.
No, yeah, he's doing.
They're asking what he needs to do, but he needs to step up a little bit too, especially with all these guys out.
Yeah.
They need to start winning football games. I mean, we can't just keep saying this is the Niners team that's gonna that's going to knock off the Chiefs eventually, right? I mean, we got to see it.
Yeah.
So, Rams get a huge divisional game, winning this one, their first home game, by the way.
Yep.
And yeah, they win that one 27-24.
Yeah, big game from those Rams. We're gonna go on to a big game for those Lions, your NFC team, Charles. They got a huge game, huge win in Arizona this week.
And this Cardinals team is unreal.
Yeah.
The fight that they have. Remember last year we were talking about Josh Dobbs?
Yep.
And the fight that this Cardinals team have. And we were fans of this Cardinals team.
You're huge fans.
Even though they didn't have their new coach now. They had that old guy, Gannon, whoever that was.
Don't remember.
Terrible
Yeah,
terrible
it was
coach. But this Cardinals team is scrappy, and they look to be competitive.
Really, they do. And I mean, they're playing a one-score game with a team who a lot of people have going to the Super Bowl this year. So 20-13 was the final score of this. Jared Goff, 18 for 23, 199, 2 touchdowns, interception. But the MVP for the Lions, in my opinion, was David Montgomery, 23 carries, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. Amon-Ra doing Amon-Ra, 7 receptions, 75 yards, touchdown to the Kai Cenat. Well, and copy Travis Hunter as well for a celebration. So that was pretty funny to watch. But I'll go on to this Cardinals team. Kyler Murray didn't play his best game, but didn't play horrible. I just want to point that out. 21 for 34, 207 yards, touchdown, and a costly pick. He was also the leading rusher, 5 carries, 45 yards. But his leading receiver wasn't Marvin Harrison this week. It was Michael Wilson. He had 8 receptions for 64 yards. But going into it, I'm still going to say it. Arizona is one of the hardest places to play in the country, and I think it's very underrated. And going into Arizona and winning, huge win for the Lions because both these teams were 1-1, but being 2-1 is a whole lot better than being 1-2. And Detroit gets to 2-1, and Arizona drops down to 1-2, unfortunately, in that division.
Yeah, Lions are. I mean, did you see what happened with Dan Campbell?
Yeah, his address got leaked.
Yes. So, did you hear about the full story though?
Yeah, his daughter's friend.
Yeah. So the
leaked it? Classmate
of Dan Campbell's daughter at the high school, they were mad that they lost the game last week, and did what he thought somehow was the right thing, and took to Snapchat, drove to the Campbell's house, and had a video going on the house or whatever, showed the address, and typed something to Dan Campbell, which if you're a true Detroit Lions fan, you would never even think about talking to him like that.
Horrible.
Or even doing that in the first place. I mean, why would you do that to anybody? But
it's inexcusable.
Especially somebody who you respect and,
they
and
cherish
cheer
him
for.
Yeah.
It's just not a good situation for that kid. And hopefully that whole situation can get figured out for MCDC. But I don't have any doubt that he'll bounce back from this.
He's moving already.
He has to move. They have to move now. Yeah,
it's too bad.
Yeah. Which some things are going to be on his mind now for next week. So, So let's just think about that when we're doing the picks. But moving on now to another inter-conference matchup here. The Ravens going to Jerry World. A huge game, 425. Tom Brady had this game. And he did better in this game.
He did much better.
He did much better in this game. He had a few stutters in there, but overall he was pretty solid. Pretty solid. Baltimore won this game 28-25 over the Cowboys. But let me just say this. The score does not indicate the game. This is maybe one of the biggest stat paddings of all time I've ever seen by a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dak Prescott played atrocious in this game, but was really helped in that fourth quarter. But
especially with the onside kick.
Right, to start off the game, Ravens just got off to a fast start. Derrick Henry getting the end zone twice in this game. He had 151 yards rushing.
He's a dog.
And setting up a touchdown drive was Nelson Aguilar. He had 1 reception
was awesome.
For 56 yards. Scampered down that sideline.
I was screaming during that play. I'm like, go Nelson, go Nelson.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Set up that touchdown for them. Lamar getting in the end zone for a rushing touchdown of his own. But late in this game, I mean, it's just funny the way that the Cowboys got back into this game. 8 minutes left, I think, around 9 minutes left in the game. Cowboys, they're down by 22 points and try an onside kick.
It worked, man.
And it worked. Oh, no, down by, 14, I think, at this point.
Yeah, it was 28-12.
Yeah. And try an onside kick, and they get it. And then they score again. And then this time.
Yeah, they messed that up.
This time now, they decide to kick off.
No, I'm saying like they went for 2 and they messed it up.
Yeah,
And
I
that
don't
just
know.
screwed up the rest of their game because if they went for 2, got it, they got this next touchdown. That's a tie ball game.
Because it sets up. Well, because it set up so the Ravens got the ball back, but ultimately had to punt.
Yeah.
Gave the ball back to the Cowboys. Cowboys actually ended up getting a Kevontae Turpin touchdown.
Yeah.
On that drive to push it to 28-25. Ravens recover another onside kick, and kneel the ball out, win that game. But Ravens getting tough win, their first win of the season.
Much needed win.
First win of the season.
Much needed win.
Another 1-2 team. Cowboys also falling to 1-2. 0-2 at home now. And this Ravens team, like you said, huge win. But they're also 2 games behind the Steelers for the lead in that division. Cleveland also tied with them. Cincy now to 0-3. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But Dallas, they're battling. Not a great team in that division. Washington, I think, is honestly a more well-rounded team than them right now.
It shows it right now.
Right, but that defense has to step up more. If they got stops early in the game, who knows what happens? This could be a Rams 49ers kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like comeback game, but didn't turn out to be for the Cowboys. Didn't turn out to be for Dak Prescott. I mean, he had 379 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, like, if you actually watch the game,
It
like,
didn't look it.
like it just didn't look like it. So, a classic Dak Prescott stat line.
Classic.
And a great win for the Baltimore Ravens.
Huge win. Going on to, we got the Sunday night game. We had the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Kansas City Referees once again. And just got to point out, I'm so tired of this bull shit. You know, it happens week after week now. And now it's getting, like, unreal. And I don't know, man. I'm just so frustrated with the amount of love the refs give to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But anyways,
Let me just say this, though. The Falcons did have their chances in this game.
No, they did, and they should have capitalized on it.
2 times, especially that 15-play drive that they had late in the fourth. 2 times they didn't convert on 4th down, and that ultimately is what cost them the game. But I agree with you. I think there is some calls that went the Chiefs' way that maybe the Falcons didn't get the same love.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean,
You still got to win your battles.
still got to win your battles, right?
But yeah, I just want to point out. I'll go through the stats for the Chiefs real quick. Mahomes played decent. I'm not even gonna. It's not good for Mahomes. 26 for 39, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. That pick was awesome by Justin Simmons. He's picked him off. What is it? 6 times?
6 times.
Yeah, 6 times in his career. That's amazing.
He was formerly with the Broncos. Yeah.
I mean, that even if you do play him twice a year, it's still amazing. Carson Steele was the leading rusher, the backup whose sister had a wedding on a game day. I just want to point this out.
I heard they're a huge Christian family.
Yeah, and
That's what I
that's
heard.
Gotta be
so the wedding was on a Sunday, but it was also a Sunday night.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of was confused. I'm like, why didn't they do it Sunday morning or afternoon?
I don't know. All the guys and I were talking about were like, well, even if like you are like Christian and stuff, which fully love that.
Right.
But a Sunday, when you know your brother's in the NFL, even if he's not starting, he's still playing. I don't know.
It was just more the timing. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's not our family, but whatever.
Oh no, not at all. I don't mean to bash at all.
It's something to talk about, though.
Yeah, I just thought it was really funny.
Yeah, but he played great.
He did play great. Rashee Rice, 12 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. Beast. This guy's a dog. If you drafted this guy in fantasy this year, you are jumping for joy because the biggest bust as of right now is Travis Kelce. The biggest bust, not in like history. I'm just saying like
this
fantasy.
year, fantasy, yeah.
Like horrible.
Yeah.
He went from
could be Laporta too, but I know Laporta's banged up a little bit.
I know, like 6 points week 1, 1 point week 2, 7 points this week. I'm frustrated. That was the worst 3rd round pick I've drafted in a while as of right now, as it stands. I mean, maybe he'll get going, and I know people are triple teaming him and stuff.
Right.
But if you're the Chiefs, you usually find ways around it. That's what they do every year.
Let me say something though. So, well, first of all, about Rashee Rice. I mean, the Chiefs do not win this game without him.
No.
And Mahomes needed him in this game. This was a game where you look at Mahomes, and it was kind of a Stroud situation. I mean, like, Mahomes does not have many bad games, but this is one of them I think you could point to, but ultimately, obviously, coming out with the win. But I saw on Instagram that now the Swifties are getting further into football and getting into film, and they're getting into ripping on Mahomes, and they're finding plays that Kelce's open and Mahomes isn't throwing to him.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're getting into it.
Wow.
They're getting into it.
All right.
So they're kind of ripping on Mahomes now a little bit, which I'm all for. I mean, I'll find
think we're all for
I'll
it.
find some plays too and send them over to you guys if you want. But yeah, on the flip side for the Falcons here, Kirko, man. I mean, we thought he might get his, I don't know if his first Monday night win, second Monday night win, but
Sunday.
he doesn't really have. Sunday night win, but he doesn't have many.
Nope.
But he went 230 passing yards, touchdown, and a pick.
Didn't even play that bad except for the pick.
And a guy that we've been saying to step up, kind of stepped up this week,
He did,
Drake
yeah.
London. 6 receptions, 67 yards, and a touchdown. They're not in this game without him.
Nope.
And Younghoe Koo, another guy I want to give some credit to, that 54-yard field goal late in the game to keep them in the game. They needed that, but ultimately the Falcons kind of blew this game in that second quarter. Kind of just didn't get enough timely stops. Didn't force enough punts. And the Chiefs won in Chiefs fashion. This was a Chiefs win game. You know,
Yeah. I mean,
just in every way of the game.
Yeah.
Moving on now to my team, and Gavin, I want you to touch on this first a little bit before I go into it.
I was talking to our another Bills correspondent, Ryan Taylor. He's been on the show before. If you know, you know.
He is our Bills correspondent.
He is the Bills.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't count.
yeah.
So, I was talking to him before the game, for our bio test, and he goes, Gavin, I'm pretty nervous right now. I'm like, why? He's like, oh, the Jags. He's like, they match up pretty well against us.
They do.
And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, like, they do. And then he's like, I don't think we're going to cover the 5.5 spread. I'm like, dude, you're definitely covering the 5.5 spread. Like, I told him right to his face, I'm like, you're 100% doing it. That's what they did. And they just ripped these Jags apart. Just got to point out, Trevor Lawrence looks horrible this season. He really looks back to horrible.
Rookie year,
horrible. Like 21 for 38, 178 yards, 1 touchdown, and that pick. I'm not going to talk about it because I'll get really heated right now. Not going to talk about it. Travis Etienne Jr., 11 carries, 68 yards. Christian Kirk, 8 receptions, 79 yards. I was just hoping for a good game. I mean, I know you're not, because I fully respect that you don't want a good game here. I just wanted something I wanted to watch when I got back from that test I actually want to watch. I turned this game off, went right to the Cincy game. I'm not going to lie.
I was going to say, I mean, we'll talk about the game in 3 minutes here, but that Cincy Commanders game was a great consolation prize for
it was
for 2 Monday night games.
I'm just going to say one more thing. My guy Kean Coleman got in the end zone. MSU legend. Just want to point that out.
So Bills getting this huge win. This was a huge win. I mean, we have not beaten the Jags since Allen's rookie year, I think.
Wow. No, I thought they lost Allen's rookie year.
No, we beat them.
Oh, they beat 'em?
We beat them
Okay.
Allen's rookie year. We lost to them in Jacksonville. We
and then
scored
in London.
3 points in Jacksonville. and then
Oh,
we
that was
lost.
a 16-3 game, right?
It was
Or something
9
like that?
9.
Oh,
Or I don't
9-3.
even playoff
Oh,
game.
it might
was-
have been 9-3.
We've scored 3 points in Jacksonville a few times, so I don't even know, including the playoffs. But regardless, this was a home game. This was a huge win. My family was there. They were tailgating. ESPN went to go film them. Did not get on the broadcast, but it's somewhere in the archives there.
They're in the archives.
It's somewhere in the
ESPN,
archives
right?
there. Maybe pull them out. But anyway, Josh Allen. MVP question mark? I don't know.
We'll see.
263 yards, 4 touchdowns passing. 4 touchdowns in the first half. He was also leading rusher. Not a huge surprise. 6 carries, 44 yards. James Cook had 39 of his own, and also a touchdown. Ray Davis getting in the end zone too for his first rushing touchdown in the NFL. Congratulations to him. As you mentioned, Keon Coleman getting his first touchdown. Shakir getting in the end zone for a touchdown. He had 72 yards, 6 receptions. Kincaid, 3 receptions, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Ty Johnson, 3 receptions, 28 yards, and a touchdown. Mac Hollins, that 1 reception for 16 yards was pretty big too. MVS, Knox, and Ray Davis all getting receptions as well.
My guy MVS.
Yeah, I mean, this team was just, I mean, you can't guard a team that has 8 different guys that can go out and get the ball. It's kind of really hard to. And especially with a guy that is such a dual threat at quarterback, where you need to also monitor him in the pocket. It's not a recipe on defense that you really want to go up against. And it's a good problem for the Bills to have, is all these weapons. Because that was the big problem going into the year. It's like, who's the number one Who are they going to
Mhm.
rely on to throw to? It's like whoever's open. I mean, that's
Same
who they're
situation
going to
with the
rely on.
Packers, too, so I like it.
Yeah, I mean, win by
It's
committee.
much more fun to watch when
um,
you have like a number one guy.
Right, and the best part about this game is that it just looked like a great game to be at. I was talking to my sister Maria, who was kind of ripping on me because she said I got four picks right. I got 6 right, including this game. But 37-point win for the Bills here. You can't take anything but positives from this game, really. And Tuhill getting in on defense. I mean, star-studded player Cedric Van Peren Granger getting in there
That's
on
our
offense
guy.
for a
He
few
is a tier 1
for a
OB
few
guy.
stats,
Man,
for a few snaps.
Granger.
DeMar with that pick, obviously, in there. Just a great, fun game overall for the Bills. It was a good momentum win. After a mini bye week, remember that.
Mhm.
But now the schedule gets real. Going into Baltimore next week, that's a huge game. We got to play that game like it's the AFC Championship. We got to treat it like it is. We got to treat it like a playoff game.
I saw this
That's all I'm gonna
meme
say.
that was really funny about this game, and it was like the Bills beating on the Jacksonville Jaguars is like a recess game where the teams are unfair. I was laughing so hard.
I mean, like, just Trevor Lawrence in the pocket that game, like, he just did not look like he knew where he was.
No.
Like the
He was
Tuhill
shook.
sack, the Tuhill sack that he had. Credit to Tuhill for getting the sack, but most defensive linemen I feel like could have. The way that Lawrence stepped up in the pocket, spun around his offensive lineman, sidestepped right into the sack. I mean, it was just a confusing play, a confusing game for Lawrence, and just he's got to get his head on straight, and Doug Peterson's got to figure some stuff out with that team because they just don't look good. They just did not look like an NFL team
It was
the other
horrible.
night.
It was really bad.
It was really bad.
Yeah,
And I don't usually rip on teams like that, but
no,
like
but they deserve to be torn apart.
that
This
was just
supposed to
they
be
it
like,
just looked like at some point they just weren't even trying. Also, by the way, I want to point this out. Every game when the Bills are up by a lot, or not even up by a lot, but if they're later in the game, they usually play Mr. Brightside after the third quarter or so, and the players were dancing and singing down in the field. I don't know if you've seen that video.
I
or
didn't
not.
see
It was Kincaid, Knox, Cook, Mac Hollins. They're all out there just dancing and having
That's
a good
cool.
time. Just the game's going on. You can see all the Jags fans in the back just demoralized in the back. It was
and
great.
All,
Great game.
All 5 of the Jags.
Great
fans
Monday
there.
night. Great Monday night. And we're looking to hold it or keep the momentum going to next Sunday night.
Huge. Oh, that's the Sunday night game. Oh, let's go. I'm hyped for that now. We're
In Baltimore.
Going on to
They might be going blackout.
I hope they do.
That's the rumor.
I hope they do.
That's
and you
the
guys should
rumor.
go white out. That. I'm not
Ooh.
even going to talk about it because I feel like it's not going to happen now that I said it. But,
Or they might go that new purple helmet that they have.
oh, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Which
I
would be
still want you guys to
interesting.
go all white. I want you guys to go all white.
I like the all white.
So going on to a game
Last game of the week.
that was so surprising. The Washington Commanders walked into Cincinnati. We both picked the Bengals here, but we both were wrong. And the Commanders just Jane Daniels, man, played amazing. 21 for 23. That is only 2 incompletions, 255 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
What was the final score again?
38-33.
Can I point something out about this
Is
game?
this a scoregami?
This was not a scoregami, but it
oh.
was the first time in NFL history that a game, every drive in a game, this is the first time in an NFL game that a drive did not end with a turnover or a punt. Any of the
There was
drives.
no punts in this
There was
game?
no punts, no turnovers in
Huh.
this game. It was all
Shootout.
touchdowns, field goals, missed field goals, and kneel downs.
I love that. I love that.
First time in NFL history. That's insane.
That's actually insane. Jane Daniels, leading rusher, 12 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown.
This guy's legit.
He was the second overall pick for a reason. He's proving it week after week now. And Terry McLaurin, just want to point out that last touchdown of the game, he went up to Dan Quinn and Jane Daniels. He said, "Get the ball in my hands. I'm going to end this game." And he sure the F did. That
27 yard. That was a great catch too.
and I just want to point
Over
out
the shoulder, great throw.
that one ball, it was like a 55-yard ball to Terry McLaurin earlier in the game. Holy cow, you cannot thread the needle better than that.
Yep, got down to the 2 there.
Yep.
They ended
set
up
for
they
a
ended up
thi-
dumping that in for Iasavas, or
It's a thick 6 right there.
what was his name? Iasovis.
I don't remember.
Well, that's the wide receiver, but the Commanders, Trent Scott,
Yeah, Trent Scott had the thick
got
6.
in the end zone for the thick 6.
Oh, dude, thick
Um,
6s are the best.
And I
man.
was telling Gavin about this. it's funny that just happened because on Sunday morning I was watching ESPN and they did a little package on Jeff Saturday and about the thick six, and then which is when an offensive lineman scores a touchdown. And then Trent Scott did it Monday night for the Commanders. So all comes full circle there.
Oh, it was awesome.
Huge Loved game for the Commanders, getting to 2-1. And if you're a Bengals fan, you're
down right now.
You look at your schedule and you see Patriots and Commanders week 1 and week 3, right?
Come on.
And you're looking, we're at least 2-1, right? Gotta be at least. We're gonna probably maybe lose the Chiefs in Arrowhead, right? Thinking about it. 0-3, you get slapped in the face, man.
Yeah.
Slapped in the face. You got to win the next 3 and then some.
Yeah.
I mean, this AFC is competitive. The AFC North is competitive.
Very competitive.
And they might be dead again. I mean, this is another lost year it could be for the Bengals. I mean,
hope it's not, but I mean, it's right now that's what's panning out to be.
I hope it's not either. They haven't won a playoff game since they beat the Bills. In that game in Buffalo.
The snow game.
They've made the playoffs since then. Obviously, it's only been 1 year, but starting 0-3 this year is not a good sign for them, and not a good sign for Joe Burrow. He needs to step up. I know he played a good game last game, scoring 33 points, but that defense, I mean, what are we doing? He'll have 38 points? 38 points to Washington?
That was bad.
I don't know. They got to get it all together. Great game for Washington. Big win. And now, we're moving on. Shifting gears. Full throttle, week 4.
Before that, though, we have Gavin's FMVP and MVP of the week. I'm going to start with the fantasy per usual. Like I said, the waiver wire pickup of the week, Jauan Jennings. 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 tutties, man. That equals 46.5 points. And by the way, I'm going to put this out there right now. Past 2 weeks, I did the guys who put up the most numbers. It's not going to be like that every week. It's not. I'm choosing. It's non-biased.
It was just the fact that you picked him up this week.
Yeah,
I mean, picked him up for like $3. We do an auction waiver wire in our league, and Gavin picked him up for like $3 or $4.
$4.
And you get 100 for the year. And Jauan Jennings just, I mean, that's gonna be obviously his best game of the season.
And I won this week, so that was huge.
Yeah. Was that your first win?
No, I'm
first
2-1.
win for Hurt So Good.
2-1 for Hurt So Good.
I'm also 2-1.
Well, yeah, here we go, Mr. Unlimited.
Here we go.
It's now the moment that everybody's been waiting for, my MVP. This guy threw some touchdowns this week. But his name's Andy Dalton. I'm giving the MVP to a guy who nobody had their radar on, and 319 yards. Need to point that stat out. 319 yards for a backup quarterback. And yes, the Red Rifle has been in plenty of starts, and he's got
plenty of playoff games too. Yeah,
over 40,000 passing yards. But I need to point out that this guy had 3 tutties, 319 yards. I mean, just unreal.
If you told us last week that Gavin's MVP would be Andy Dalton and his fantasy MVP would be Jauan Jennings, you wouldn't believe him.
You wouldn't
believe him. But yeah, Andy Dalton had a great game. We didn't really even talk about him that much when we were talking about the Panthers game, but that's just a weird situation overall in Carolina, and it's just better to see it just play out, I think. We'll talk about it more next week and see how Dalton does in his second week.
But I loved it, and my friend Dom was asking me, because after the 1 o'clock games, my MVP was Malik Willis. Because, I mean, week 1 MVP, after the 1 o'clock games, that was true. But once that Panthers game got going, I was looking at him, I'm like, yo, Dom, I think that Andy Dalton might be my MVP. And the 319 yards really solidified that.
And the no picks really helps, too.
Yeah, no picks. Yeah. 319 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Clean game.
Clean game.
Thielen did go down in that game, and we've been talking about Thielen a little bit. Big veteran for that team.
Huge veteran.
Hopefully he can be healthy. I don't know his update on that, but hopefully he's back and playing this week.
Yeah, praying.
Moving on now to week 4. Starting on Thursday night, Cowboys at Giants. Gavin, who do you got in this game?
I have a bounce-back week for the Cowboys. I don't care if it's in Jet Life or not. The Cowboys and the Giants, whenever they play on primetime, I just feel like the Cowboys spank them.
Yep.
So I don't think Malik Neighbors can do too much against this defense either.
By the way, once again, to see these picks, they're going to be on our Instagram today or tomorrow.
Is that Out of Bounds Podcast with a dot in between every single word.
Right now, my record is 23-25. Gavin's is 28-20. Big week coming up. A lot of swing games, but Cowboys have won 13 out of the last 14 against the Giants, and I think 11 of those have been by more than a touchdown. So
That's crazy.
I'm going with the Cowboys in this game.
Yeah. Both got the Cowboys. Next game up, the 0-3 Bengals are playing the 1-2 Panthers. And if you're a Bengals fan and you haven't won any of these games, this is the one game you need to win.
Yeah, you're playing arguably before the season three of the worst four teams in the league. And I got the Bengals in this game.
I do too. I think this is the week where they get the bounce back. Jamar Chase looked amazing last week. I like to see that connections back. So with that being said, I don't think the Panthers' defense is going to be enough. I think the Commanders' defense is better than the Panthers' defense, even though they let 33.
Right.
And I just love that the Red Rifle's going to be playing in this game against his former team. He'll have hey, we'll see if he can go back-to-back MVP. It's never been done. I mean, I know it's just started.
Never been done.
It's never been
done, though.
So,
the Bengals, I mean, like everything you said, I just feel like at some point they got to win a game, and this is a game where it seems like they'll win.
I'm praying they win.
And let's see if Carolina pulls up the upset, I guess. But Saints at Falcons, staying in the NFC South. Huge game here.
Huge
game in the South in Atlanta, and I'm gonna go with the Falcons. Not for that specific reason, but I just think that the way that these teams are going right now, I feel like Atlanta is. They've had two really close games recently against two really good teams.
Yep.
And they both just played the same opponent. And the Falcons beat them. Falcons beat the Eagles, and the Saints lost to them. So I'm gonna go with the Falcons in this game.
I'm not. I'm going the Saints. I told you last week the Saints need to show me something more before I pick them. And what they show me, that their defense can really lock up when it matters most, except for that last drive in the fourth quarter in general. And I really like the Saints this week, and I'm going to go with them to – I wouldn't even say upset. This is whoever wins is not going to be an upset. It's such a 50-50 game where toss the ball
huge game,
up.
though.
Yeah, no, a huge game for their standings in their division. Interdivision game in week 4, huge.
A lot of interdivision games this week.
Yeah.
Including this next one, Jaguars at Texans.
Yeah, this I don't think the Jaguars are anything.
They might be 0-4.
After that loss against the Bills, I officially kind of wrote them off. Until they play a bad team, I'll pick them. But I got the Texans in this one with a bounce back, much needed bounce back win for that division.
I think this is a big bounce back win for the Texans too. I think Stroud will have a good game. But I wouldn't doubt if the Jags come out firing in this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interdivision, anything can happen.
Right. Moving on, Broncos at Jets. Should be an interesting game. Let's see if Bo Nix can have two good games in a row. But ultimately, in Jet life against Aaron Rodgers, I don't think the Broncos can really get it done. By the way, they just signed Quan Alexander to the practice squad this morning. Former Falcon over there in Buck. But I got the Jets in this game.
Green 18, yeah, I do too. Bring me the A-Rod against the Broncos. I like A-Rod a lot. I mean, obviously, I might be a little biased, but I really think this might be the week that he and 5 get going.
Yeah, it definitely could
be this week.
I mean, but
Pat, like
PS2.
Pat's going to be playing him. So if you really want to test your best receiver against arguably the best corner in the league, it's going to get interesting.
Yep.
And it's happened before with Aaron Rodgers. It happened a couple of years ago. The perfect example was when the Packers were playing a playoff game against the Rams, and it was Devontae Adams versus Jalen Ramsey. Who cooked that game?
Yep.
Devontae did.
Yep.
So that's why I like the Jets here with that 8-5 connection growing.
Vikings at Packers is the next game, and this is potentially game of the week.
It should not be a 1 o'clock.
It should be a 4 o'clock game. Tom Brady should be in Green Bay this week, in my opinion. And I had the Vikings in this game. I think Sam Darnold carries them to 4-0. And not to say it's just because I knew you were picking the Packers, but I knew this was a game that I could pick up something different on you. And I don't know. I feel like Aaron Jones is going to go into Lambeau and have a pretty good revenge game.
I have something about Aaron Jones right now, actually. I was just about to say. So he said, no G on the helmet this Sunday, but always in my heart. That's something that...
And you got to love that. And he loves those fans, but he's going to give it to him on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. But I still think the way this defense is playing right now, I can't choose against them. So I'm going the Packers here, obviously, for obvious reasons. In Lambeau, I like it. But give me the Packers here. Go Pack, go. Let's see if Jordan Love can get back this week. He was in limited participation last week. This would be a huge game to return to.
It would
if
be.
he can get back.
This might be a game, though, where you might want to be cautious about him playing.
That's very true as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind if Malik played, but I
Right.
also would.
Because Malik's been playing well, so
Yeah.
it's like...
There's no reason to rush,
Right.
in a way.
Steelers at Colts is the next game. Should be a pretty
Yeah, it should be
interesting game. See if the Steelers can keep their momentum going. I think they do, actually. I think I haven't seen enough out of Anthony Richardson yet to justify picking him, especially against the Steelers' defense and Mike Tomlin. So I'm going to go with the Steelers here.
This
Move
game,
to 4-0.
Yeah, this is what's kind of reminding me of a game last year where the Colts played the Ravens, where the Ravens defense was just so good. But, I mean, I know they had Gardner Minshew in that game, but I think this is the one game where the Colts can just snap it and just let AR fly, and I hope it happens because I'm picking the Colts here.
Yeah, anytime you got JT in the backfield, I mean, you have a shot. So I wouldn't write off the Colts. I almost picked them in this game, but this is another game where I was like, I feel like the Steelers are going to go into Indy and get that fourth win and just be one of those teams that just keeps winning. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be like that old Steelers team. Remember the COVID team?
Yeah.
They went like 11-0.
Yeah.
And they lost to Washington.
Yep, lost to Washington.
Heineke.
Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Bears-Rams is the next game. Rams at Bears in Chicago.
Interesting matchup here.
Interesting matchup. The Rams do not usually go to Chicago, I feel like.
No.
They usually feel like it's usually Bears in L.A.
Yeah.
But I actually have the Bears again in this one. I think I might have picked them every week so far.
I think you have.
But I feel like the way that the Rams were playing early in that game last week, and the Bears are due for a bounce-back game at some point. I just feel like this is a perfect storm for another one of those weird upset games where the teams kind of just even out records with each other, and I think the Bears get this one done. Somehow.
The way that the momentum was going for that comeback win, I think the momentum's going to carry into Chicago, and I think the Rams are going to get it done. And I know they're banged up, but if they just beat the 49ers defense with what the pieces they had, I think they could beat the Bears defense. So for that reason, going the Rams here.
Our next game is Eagles at Buccaneers. And honestly, wheels are kind of falling off on the Bucs train for me. Not on the Baker train. Not at all. Wheels are fully intact on that.
Still a tier 1
but
guy.
That Bucs car in the back of the train kind of fell off its latch over there, and it's kind of left behind a little bit. And I'm going with the Eagles in this game. I'm an Eagles believer. I think they're still a really good team. I think Hurts is still a really good quarterback. And I think going into Tampa, he's historically played well in Tampa. So I'm going to keep that going for him this week. Even though I know last year they lost, but he still played pretty decent. I still have the Eagles winning this game. Revenge game.
This is a big wild card rematch of last year.
And I think maybe the year before or the year before that too, when Brady was there. Remember the Eagles were like bad. Hurts' first year. They made the playoffs. They were the 7th
Hurts'
seed.
First year.
I don't know if it was his first year,
but his second.
But the first time he was in the playoffs, they were a 7th seed, and I feel like they had like no receivers or something.
That was before the A.J. Brown.
Yeah, before A.J. Brown. I think it was the season before, and then they were playing Brady. I just remember like going in and just being like, Bucs are going to crush them in that game. And they did. And they did. Just a random thought.
I have the Bucs here. I think this is a perfect time for a bounce-back win, and against a good team, which, if you guys forgot, the Bucs are still a good football team. They beat the Detroit Lions, so like, I still believe in the Bucs. I think they can still get it done, and I think it's gonna be a huge week for Baker Mayfield. I think he's gonna connect against a tough secondary.
Yeah, I feel like Mike Evans is gonna get a little bit more involved this week. Patriots at Niners is the next game, and
I'm going Niners.
Yeah, I'm going Niners too. They need a win. They need a bounce-back win, and this Patriots team doesn't look great. Even though the defense looks great, the offense doesn't look like they can score much.
Purdy.
Right.
At home.
It should be a good test, but it should be a good test with a win.
Yes.
So, good storm there for the Niners. Kind of a good get-back game there.
Yep.
Commanders at Cardinals. This should be an interesting game because it's two scrappy teams, two teams that kind of play similar, two teams that had similar expectations, and they're both exceeding those expectations. Who do you got in this game, Gav?
I said the same thing about the Chiefs. I said I need one more week from the Cardinals until I pick them if they can show me something. They showed me that they were competitive and gritty in that Lions game. So I'm going to take I'm going to take the Cardinals here because I need one more week from the Commanders, I guess. But like, I don't know. Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., And honestly, Zach Ertz played pretty good in that game.
He did.
And for the Commanders, but like, and Terry McLaurin, it's such a hard game to pick, honestly. But I like the Cardinals. I like them a lot. I like Trey McBride over Zach Ertz. I like Marvin Harrison. I don't know. Budda Baker, they got a lot of pieces. I think the Cardinals can get it done against the Commanders.
I have the Cardinals as well. I was really torn on this one, honestly.
Too.
But I don't want my bias of watching that game on Monday dictate my pick for this week. Cardinals have just looked better overall than the Commanders, and especially with them being at home this week. Arizona's a sneaky place to play.
Like I was saying last week.
Like you were saying, yeah, I've kind of been monitoring that a little bit. Arizona's a sneaky place to play, so I think in the 4 o'clock window, I think they sneak out a win here.
Yeah, I do too.
And Commanders got to fly all the way out there.
Yep.
It's a tough travel. Next game, Chiefs at Chargers, another divisional game. I'm going with the Chiefs in this one because I feel like they never lose against the Chargers, especially in LA.
Yeah, I mean, even if they have the closest games,
and they're usually an OT game. It's usually, yeah.
So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs here. I really think that they can get it done per usual. And even if Justin Herbert's not 100%, even if he was, I don't even think I'd pick him still. So I'm gonna go the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chargers got a lot to figure out, but they got to get it going now.
Yeah.
Browns at Raiders is the next game.
Yeah, I got the Browns here.
Me too.
The Raiders really disappointed me last week, so I think the Browns, perfect time to get a bounce back away.
Perfectly said. I got the Browns as well. Bills at Ravens.
You know, this was supposed to be the matchup you were supposed to go to in the playoffs last year. This is a Sunday night game. This is a huge game. And if there's a time, because Lamar's not great against the Bills, I'm going to point that out. He's only been, I think there was one game he just popped off, but he's not been great against the Bills. But for that reason, I'm switching my mind, and I'm still going Ravens. But I think that Lamar is actually going to have a good game. They're coming off that win in Dallas. They got momentum. They're home. It's Sunday night. They can really, really start turning the wheels. This could be the week to turn around their entire season to show that they're still going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. So give me the Ravens here.
Yeah, this is a huge game, like you said. And looking at these teams, Bills are 3-0. If you have a chance to move to 4-0, it's a huge thing. If you have a chance to do it against a team that is potentially competing for the same seed as you in the playoffs, that's an even bigger thing. So I got the Bills in this one. If we can win this game and the Ravens fall to 1-3, I feel like the Ravens are dead for the 1 seed. I've been saying it for a little bit, especially losing to the Chiefs too. Doesn't look like they can really move over any of those teams, especially down by 3 games at that point.
It would be amazing if you and the Chiefs played each other undefeated. That would be really cool.
There's a chance. I mean, we play later in the season this year.
That would be really cool.
Which isn't usually a matchup that we get with them.
Yep.
But that would be pretty interesting. I doubt it. There will be a game that will drop. I feel like we'll drop a Jets game or something like that. But I'm
excited.
I had the Bills in this one, and I feel like Allen keeps it going. I do think Lamar runs all over us, though. I'm not gonna lie. And I also think Derrick Henry runs all over us. But I think passing game wise, I think we have that lockdown. Our secondary's been unreal. Our linebackers have stepped up, and our pass rush has gotten to the quarterback pretty well.
Just want to point out, I think Josh Allen's also leading the actual MVP race of this year so far.
He's switched to the betting favorite. Over Mahomes now. So
good.
So MVP is on for Josh Allen.
Yeah.
This might be the year.
Yeah. So he's just got to keep it going.
Yep. Hopefully, knock on wood, he stays healthy, and
when
we keep it going, everybody stays healthy, and we keep it going. Titans at Dolphins. Rematch of Thursday night from last year, primetime game, weird game where the Dolphins ultimately lost, which gave the Bills the division in the end.
Yeah, that was a crazy.
This game actually led to a big chain reaction because if the Dolphins win that game, the Bills don't win the division. Bills don't go on to play Kansas City in the playoffs. Who knows if we get rid of Diggs at that point? I don't know. Huge chain reaction just from this game alone last year, but this year. A lot of changes between both of these teams. Dolphins retaining 40% of their roster from last year, 60% new guys. And with injuries at quarterback, with both of their quarterbacks, I have the Titans in this game.
I do too. And I think Will Levis, his first career win was against the Dolphins, so he'll have some extra jazz against this Dolphins team.
Yeah.
And he has pieces. This is the craziest thing. Like that team, Tony Pollard,
Ridley.
DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, can't remember.
Traylon Burks is still there.
Yeah, Traylon Burks is still there. They got pieces on the
Okonkwo.
offense. Yeah, they got pieces.
Yeah.
And on the defense too. Their run defense is amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
Mhm.
And they're gonna try running the ball, and it's not gonna happen. Got the Titans in this one.
Yep. Last game of the week is the second half of the Monday night doubleheader. Back-to-back weeks for the doubleheader on Monday night. Seahawks at Lions. This should be a pretty good game. I'm really excited for this game. Two of my favorite teams right now going at it. Geno Smith, MCDC in
crazy.
Detroit. How can you not love it? Aiden Hutchinson. I got the Lions in this game.
I have the Lions in this game as well. I still kind of think that the Seahawks are frauds for a 3-0 team in the NFL. So I think that the Lions are going to prove that the Seahawks can't beat a good team.
All right. Perfect. We have a lot of swing games this week, 6 of them to be exact.
Very exciting.
Should be a good week of football. Should be better than last week. And if you want to see these picks once again, they'll be on our Instagram.
At Out of Bounds Podcast with a dot between every single word.
Yes, there is, Gavin. You got anything?
Let's have a good week.
Let's have a good week. Let's have a week.
2 huge games for our team, so let's have
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah, huge games for both of our teams. Some divisional games. It should be a good week. Make sure you tune in next week. Should be a good episode next week as well. And enjoy the football. Enjoy
Yep.
college football.
As usual.
And have a day.
Hey, all right, have a day.